Okay, so I want to talk about a particular character in the Watchmen book, comic book by Alan Moore, which is, of course, the comedian. Uh, this book is one of my personal Bibles for obvious reasons. I think Alan Moore is really a fantastic writer when he wants to be. And why do I want to talk about the comedian of all people is because I really vibe with his, let's call it philosophy, his mindset. Obviously, he is cynical, he is a sort of nihilist, and he loves to, watch the world burn and have a good time for entertainment purposes, right? And he might even engage in a little, tomfoolery from time to time, right? So I really enjoyed his character, but there's a problem. There is a serious problem, and I really, after reading this book for so many times, I still can't figure out if Alan Moore's decision with this character was a stroke of genius or it was just an oversight, right? So the comedian finds out what Ozymandias is planning with the giant squid, millions of people dead to save billions, and he just loses it. He just loses it. He starts crying. He talks to his dead mother. I don't know. He prays, whatever. He is a sad mess. And I don't know if I appreciate this metamorphosis that happens to the comedian. And of course, later on, the comedian is killed by Ozymandias. So here's the conundrum. The comedian is just this guy who understands reality, he understands how the world works, he most of all understands human nature, the human condition, and how it operates. So he has become this sort of nihilist who enjoys, watching the world burn. Of course, um, he participates in assassinations. He just, he participates in crowd control. Every single sentence that he utters is just, brimming with, nihilism, cynicism, satire, sarcasm, etc. So in a way, he is one of the most, you know, awake characters when it comes to, reality. He is a realist, a fatalist, whatever you want to call it, right? And he goes to, of course, he participates in the Vietnam War. He gets some woman pregnant, and then because of a scuffle, he shoots this woman dead that is pregnant with his unborn child, and he doesn't even bat an eye. He doesn't give a shit, right? So he is the titular, he is the epitome, the personification, the incarnation of, this this archetype that is, of course, I don't know what you might call it, a nihilist, a monster, a beast in human form, right? So I vibe with his character because, of course, life is a joke, humanity is laughable, etc., right? Nobody's gonna save us, we're all doomed, of course. But again, the fact that he changes his mind at the end when he finds out Ozymandias's plan with the squid, I just can't wrap my head around it, and I can't accept it. Okay, because of course, when you're reading a story, you put yourself in the shoes of the characters, and to me, as I was reading this, I put myself in the comedian's shoes, and my reaction to this would have been completely different. I would have laughed and I would have moved on with my life. Listen, Ozymandias' plan, as brilliant as it is, does not impress me. Right? I think Ozymandias' plan is a half measure. And it is not impressive because he does not go all the way. He is, at best, an anti hero because he kills millions to save billions. That's some lame shit, right? But anyway, the comedian discovers this plan and he just loses it. And my reasoning is, I think that, with all of the shit, with all of the mean, hostile, evil shit that the comedian has done, deep down there was still some sort of humanity left in him. And that is why he, started bawling and crying like a little bitch. That is the only explanation that I can come up with. He was just, at the end, he was just human like everybody else. And of course, there is a wisdom here because I think we are all prone to, to these. We are all weak and vulnerable to these, what you might call them, these great events. And I think we all have our limits, right? But I think my limit is a bit higher than the comedians because, like I said, this plan with the squid is not impressive to me. It is, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm too far gone. Maybe the comedian was still, under all of that shit, he was still, human at the end of the day, right? So this is, of course, a discussion on this nihilistic philosophy, which, of course, speculates that nothing matters, nothing has any value, and why should you care, right? Nothing matters. Everything is a joke, and I concur, right? So that is why I still love this comedian for what it does, for what he does, but that change at the end before he gets killed is just, I don't know, maybe disappointing, but it kind of makes sense, right? But I'm all for extremes. I'm all for excess, and I never liked half measures. So, you know, to me, the comedian, based on the evidence that we are familiar with, the comedian should have not been so influenced, so devastated by this plan to kill millions to save billions. I mean, it's laughable. It's laughable. He he participated in genocides. Why is he so affected all of a sudden? Right? Because listen, there's a scene in this book in the Vietnam War right after he kills that woman that is pregnant with his child. Dr. Manhattan, says you shouldn't have done that. Why did you do that? And the comedian, you know, replies with, you're God, you can do anything, and you didn't do anything to stop, me killing her. Why do you care all of a sudden? Right? You should have cared from the beginning, right? This is one of the, major themes of this book. And of course, right? It makes sense, but then at the end, the comedian cares as well. Why is he so affected all of a sudden? Why does he care all of a sudden that millions will fall, you know, because he calls it the biggest practical joke ever, right? Why does he care all of a sudden? And I think this is where, Moore's brilliance comes in because at the end of the day, we are all human. We are all prone to errors, of course, right? And most of us, every day, we pretend, right? We pretend to be edgy, etc., etc. So everybody has a limit, and when that limit is crossed, we show our true colors, right? And it's just so shocking to me because listen, the comedian, his actions, they make him a monster. He is a monster. He is a beast. He has no conscience. He doesn't care about anything. He laughs at the world. And he commits horrific atrocities. And yet, at the end, he still somehow retains his humanity and starts crying like a little baby. Right? nihilistic, cynical, sarcastic guy, falls apart, collapses, right? Because, oh boy, the biggest practical joke ever, right? A giant squid monster, whatever, right? It's just, it's baffling. It's baffling to me. I still don't really get it, but I appreciate what's happening here. You know, to me, once you are too far gone in nihilism, in cynicism, the moment you become indifferent and detached, and the moment you, and the moment, the moment your only satisfaction and pleasure in life is to cause evil and pain and suffering and to laugh at humanity, that is the moment of no return. You cannot go back. You cannot be human anymore because I think you have to sacrifice your humanity to become this, devil, right? You cannot go back and become human again because something, bigger than yourself happens. It doesn't make any sense to me, right? But still, this is a wonderful book. Like I said, one of my personal favorites. This is one of my Bibles, and there are so many interesting themes and characters who are, uh, you know, these characters represent archetypes, right? Oh, archetypes of the negative spectrum, if you want to call it that, and all of them are contradictory. They all make contradictions. They all contradict themselves in one way or the other, even though all of them are extreme examples of, whatever ideology they, embody, right? All of them are still human. Even Rorschach is still human, even though he is probably the most extreme out of all of them, right? But that's about it. Tell me your opinion in the comments. Should the comedian, should he have, remained this stoic nihilist joker character that just laughs at humanity for what it is, or is it correct and adequate and proper that he, became this sobbing, milksop at the end because the biggest practical joke ever, giant squid monster, right? So tell me what you think, and thanks for watching.